Welcome to Drift to Sleep. Hello and welcome to Drift to Sleep. I'm Adele Nguyen, and tonight I'll be guiding you through a peaceful collection of cozy bedtime stories made to help your thoughts slow down, your body soften, and your mind gently drift towards sleep. This compilation brings together 3 calming fairy tale sleep stories. Each one will take you somewhere quiet and safe, somewhere warm, somewhere gentle, somewhere far away from the noise of the day. Before we begin, take a moment to settle in. Let your head rest more heavily on the pillow. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hands become still. Take a slow breath in and let it out softly. There is nothing you need to solve right now, nothing you need to finish, nothing you need to carry into this quiet hour. And if these stories help you relax, please consider liking the video and subscribing to Drift to Sleep. It helps the channel grow, and it lets me keep creating more cozy sleep stories, bedtime stories, and calming fairy tales for nights just like this. You can also save this video for the next time you need help falling asleep or finding your way back to sleep in the middle of the night. Now, let the room around you become calm. Let the music stay soft in the background. Let the story move slowly. And let yourself drift, little by little, into rest. The story you're about to hear is called The Snow Lantern at Willow Harbor. Long ago, beside a silver-grey sea, there was a harbor village called Willow Harbor. It was not large. It had 1 winding lane, 1 baker, 1 tiny post office, and 1 bell tower with a green copper roof. At the end of the harbor wall stood a lighthouse. It was tall and white, with a red door at its base and a warm golden lamp at the top. Every evening, when the sky turned lavender, the light began to turn. Round and round it went, casting its gentle glow across the water. In a little room beside the lighthouse lived a young woman named Nessa. Nessa was the lighthouse keeper's apprentice. She was quiet by nature, but not lonely. She liked the company of simple things. She liked the small click of a kettle lid. She liked the soft brush of wool socks against wooden floors. She liked the way seabirds tucked their heads beneath their wings when evening came. Most of all, she liked caring for the lighthouse. Every afternoon, she polished the brass railings. She swept sand from the steps. She trimmed the lamp wick. She checked the windows for salt spray. And when everything was ready, she stood at the top of the tower and watched the first beam of light move across the darkening sea. Nessa lived with an old keeper named Orlan, who had watched over Willow Harbor for nearly 50 winters. He had kind eyes and a voice as low as the tide. Light is a promise, he often told her. A lighthouse does not chase the dark away. It simply reminds travelers where safety waits. Nessa loved that. Light is a promise. She would repeat it to herself whenever she climbed the spiral stairs at dusk. On the winter night our story begins, snow had been falling since morning. It was soft snow, not wild snow, not sharp snow. It came down in slow, floating flakes that looked like torn pieces of cloud. The village rooftops wore white caps. The fishing boats rocked gently in the harbor, each one tied with thick ropes to the wooden posts. Warm squares of window light glowed along the lane, and chimney smoke rose straight up into the still evening air. Inside the lighthouse cottage, Nessa and Orlan were making supper. A small pot of barley soup bubbled on the stove. A loaf of brown bread rested under a cloth. Near the hearth, Nessa's grey cat, Button, slept in a round basket with one paw over his nose. Orlan stirred the soup once, tasted it, and nodded. Almost ready. Nessa smiled and set 2 blue bowls on the table. The cottage was very cozy that night. The fire gave little snaps and sighs. Melted snow tapped from Nessa's boots onto the mat by the door. The windows were fogged at the edges, and beyond them, the harbor was wrapped in blue dusk. Then, faintly, they heard a sound. Ting. Nessa looked up. Orlan lifted his head too. Ting. It was not the bell tower. That bell was deep and bronze. This sound was smaller, clearer, like a spoon touching a teacup. Ting. Button opened one eye. Nessa went to the window and wiped a circle in the misted glass. Outside, the snow moved through the beam of the lighthouse like silver dust. At first, she saw nothing unusual. Then, near the harbor wall, a tiny blue light blinked, once, twice, then it vanished. "Did you see that?" Nessa asked. Orlan came to stand beside her. The light blinked again, farther away now, near the old steps that led down to the tide pools. Orlan's face grew thoughtful, but not frightened. "Ah," he said softly, "the snow lantern." Nessa turned to him. "The what?" "The snow lantern," he said. "I have not seen it for many years." Outside, the little bell rang again. Ting. Nessa felt a gentle pull in her heart. Not a command, not an alarm, more like an invitation. Button rose from his basket, stretched, and padded to the door. He sat there, tail curling neatly around his paws. "You know something," Nessa whispered to him. Button blinked slowly, as cats do when they know a great deal and have no intention of explaining it. Orlan took Nessa's heavy cloak from its peg. "If you follow it," he said, "follow calmly. The snow lantern never leads someone where they are not meant to go." Nessa accepted the cloak. "Should I?" Orlan smiled. "That is for you to feel." Nessa listened to the fire. She listened to the sea. She listened to the soft bell outside. Ting, and then she knew. She wrapped herself warmly. She put on her wool hat, her scarf, and her thick boots. Orlan tucked a small packet into her pocket. "Spiced biscuits," he said. "Every winter walk is better with biscuits." Nessa laughed softly. Button slipped out the door before her, stepping daintily into the snow. And so, beneath the turning lighthouse beam, Nessa followed the little blue light into the winter evening. At first, the path was familiar. Nessa knew every stone of Willow Harbor. She knew the bend in the lane where the baker's window always smelled of cinnamon. She knew the post office door that stuck in damp weather. She knew the 3 crooked steps outside the netmaker's cottage. The snow lantern floated just ahead. It was the size of an apple, blue-white and very bright, though it did not hurt her eyes. It bobbed gently in the air, leaving behind a trail of soft sparks that faded before they touched the ground. Button trotted after it with his tail high. Nessa followed at an easy pace. No one else seemed to see the lantern. Through warm windows, she saw villagers settling into their evenings. Mrs. Vale was knitting by the fire. The baker was sliding trays onto a shelf. 2 children were pressing paper stars against a window pane. Everything felt peaceful. At the end of the lane, the lantern turned toward the harbor steps. Here, the air smelled of salt and snow. The tide was low, and the dark rocks below glistened softly. Little pools held pieces of the sky. The lighthouse beams swept over them and moved on. Nessa paused. The steps were safe in summer, but in winter they were slippery. She took care, placing one boot at a time. Button, of course, needed no such care. He hopped lightly down as if each stone had been arranged for him personally. At the bottom, the snow lantern waited. Ting. "All right," Nessa said gently. "I am coming." The lantern drifted across the tide pools. Nessa followed along the flat stones. The world was quiet except for the slow hush of the sea and the soft crunch of snow beneath her boots. As she walked, she noticed that the tide pools were glowing. Each one held a little reflection of the lantern. Blue light trembled in the water. Tiny shells gleamed. A sleepy crab tucked itself beneath a ribbon of seaweed. Nessa felt as though she had stepped into a secret version of her own harbour, one that was always there but only visible on certain snowy evenings. She reached into her pocket, took out one of Orland's biscuits, and broke off a crumb for Button. He accepted it with great seriousness. Then the lantern moved on. It floated past the tide pools and toward a narrow path Nessa had never taken before. That was strange. She knew the harbour well, but this path seemed to have appeared between two snow-covered rocks. It sloped gently upward, away from the sea, toward the cliffs. Nessa looked back. The lighthouse shone behind her, steady and warm. Light is a promise, she thought. Then she looked ahead. The snow lantern rang once. Ting. Nessa followed. The path climbed slowly. There was no wind. The snow fell straight down. Every sound seemed softened. On one side of the path, the cliff rose in smooth, dark stone. On the other, the sea stretched wide and moonlit. Far below, waves folded over themselves in quiet silver lines. Button walked beside Nessa now, brushing her boot with his soft side. The little lantern floated ahead, never too far. After a while, the harbour lights grew small behind them. The lighthouse was still visible, but it looked like a star fastened to the shore. Nessa might have felt uneasy if the night had been different. But this night was not uneasy. It was deep and blue and calm. Snow gathered on her shoulders. Her breath made little clouds. The wool around her neck held warmth close. At last, the path curved inland. Nessa found herself standing before a grove of winter trees. They were slender and pale, with silver bark and bare branches. From every branch hung tiny icicles. They did not look sharp. They looked like glass chimes. The snow lantern drifted between the trees. As it passed, the icicles made music. Very soft music, not a song with words, not even a melody one could hum. More like the sound of moonlight becoming sound for a moment. Nessa stood still, listening. Button sat down in the snow and curled his tail around his paws. The lantern moved deeper into the grove. Nessa followed, slowly now, not wanting to disturb the music. Inside the grove, the snow was untouched. Every step she took left a perfect boot print. Button left tiny paw marks beside her. At the center of the trees stood a small round clearing, and in the clearing was a table. It was made of pale wood, and on it sat a steaming teapot, 2 cups, and a folded pair of mittens. Nessa looked around. "Hello?" she called softly. The trees answered with the faintest ringing. The snow lantern floated down and settled in the middle of the table. Then, from the far side of the clearing, someone stepped into view. He was an old man, or perhaps not old at all. It was difficult to tell. His beard was white, but his eyes were bright and young. His coat was the color of morning frost. Around his shoulders he wore a scarf woven with threads of blue and silver. He carried a lantern pole, but there was no lantern hanging from it. Nessa knew, without being told, that the little blue light belonged to him. "Good evening, lighthouse apprentice," he said. His voice was calm and warm, like a candle in a window. "Good evening," Nessa replied. "Are these your woods?" "In winter," he said, In spring, they belong mostly to birds, in summer to bees, in autumn to leaves. But tonight, yes, I am keeping watch." He gestured to the table. "Will you have tea?" Nessa looked at Button. Button had already stepped toward the table and was sniffing the folded mittens. So Nessa sat. The chair was just the right size. The cup fit perfectly in her hands. The tea smelled of honey, pear, and something like snow itself, if snow had a taste. The old man poured. "I am called the Keeper of Snow Lanterns," he said. "I tend the small lights that guide gentle travelers in quiet weather." Nessa took a careful sip. Warmth spread through her chest. "It was your lantern I followed," he nodded. "It heard your lighthouse." "My lighthouse?" "Light calls to light," he said simply. "Your tower sends a promise across the sea. My lanterns answer across the snow." Nessa looked down into her cup. The tea reflected tiny stars that were not overhead. "I did not know snow needed lanterns," she said. "All paths need kindness," said the keeper, "even paths that are white and still." Nessa smiled. The keeper pushed the folded mittens toward her. "For you." "Oh," Nessa said, "I cannot take them." "You can," he said gently. They were knitted from the wool of cloud sheep, very warm, very light, useful for someone who climbs a lighthouse in winter. Nessa touched them. They were softer than any wool she had ever known. "Thank you." She slipped them on. They fit perfectly. Button placed one paw on the keeper's boot, as if asking whether there was also a gift for cats. The keeper smiled and reached into his coat pocket. He drew out a small silver fish-shaped biscuit. Button accepted it with silent approval. For a little while they sat together in the snowy clearing. Nessa drank tea. Button ate crumbs. The icicle branches chimed gently overhead. Then the keeper looked toward the trees. "Before you go home," he said, "there is something I would like you to see." The keeper lifted his empty lantern pole. The blue snow lantern rose from the table and floated to its hook. It settled there, glowing a little brighter. Then he walked toward the far edge of the clearing. Nessa followed with Button beside her. They passed through the silver trees and came to a hilltop. From there, Nessa could see the entire coast. Willow Harbor lay below, cupped between cliffs. The lighthouse turned slowly. Its golden beam moved over rooftops, boats, waves, and snow. But beyond the harbor, out on the dark water, there were more lights. Not boats, not stars. Small blue lanterns floated above the sea mist, each one glowing softly. They formed a curving path across the water. "What are they guiding?" Nessa whispered. "Dreams," said the keeper. Nessa turned to him. "Dreams," he nodded. "Every night, dreams travel. Some come from children, some from old sailors, some from cats asleep by warm stoves. In winter, when the world is quiet, dreams sometimes lose their way in the fog. My lanterns help them drift safely to where they are needed." Nessa watched the lights. A tiny golden shape floated between two blue lanterns. It looked like a little paper boat. Then it changed into a feather, then into a moonlit shell, then into nothing at all. "A dream," the keeper said. Nessa felt very still inside. Another dream passed. This one shimmered pink and smelled faintly of bread. "That one," said the keeper, "belongs to the baker. He is dreaming of summer berries." Nessa laughed softly. Button's ears twitched. "And that one?" Nessa asked, pointing to a green glow no bigger than a pea. The keeper leaned forward. "Ah, that is your cat's dream." Button looked away, as if uninterested. The green glow floated past. For just a moment, Nessa saw a warm kitchen, a saucer of cream, and a sunbeam wide enough for a very comfortable nap. Yes, Nessa said. That seems right. The keeper's eyes crinkled kindly. And there is one more. He lifted his hand. From near the lighthouse, a small silver dream rose into the air. It came slowly across the harbour, following the golden beam of the lighthouse. When it reached the hilltop, it hovered in front of Nessa. Inside it, she saw herself. She was older, perhaps, still climbing the lighthouse stairs, still tending the lamp. But the cottage below was full of warmth. There were extra cups on the table, extra boots by the door, a shelf of books, a kettle singing, and outside, through every winter, the lighthouse shone. Nessa felt a soft ache in her heart. "Is that my dream?" she asked. "One of them," said the keeper. "I did not know I had sent it out." "Most people do not notice when they release a dream," he said. "They breathe it out while stirring soup or mending socks or looking at the moon. The dream knows where to go." Nessa watched the silver glow drift upward. Will it come true? The keeper tilted his head. Some dreams come true exactly. Some come true sideways. Some simply keep us company until we grow into them. Nessa liked that answer. The snow fell more slowly now. The keeper turned back toward the grove. "It is time to return you home." Nessa looked down at Willow Harbor. The village seemed very far away, but also very near. "Will I find the path?" "You will," he said. "And tonight you may carry this." He lifted the blue lantern from the pole. It floated into Nessa's hands and became a small glass lantern with a silver handle. Inside it, blue-white light pulsed softly, like a sleeping star. "Only until you reach your door," he said. "Then it will know its way back to me." Nessa held it carefully. "It is beautiful. It is useful," he said. "Beautiful things often are." The walk home felt shorter. Nessa followed the lantern's glow through the silver grove. The icicles chimed behind her, growing softer with each step. Button padded beside her, leaving small marks in the snow. The path down the cliff was calm and clear. The sea murmured below. The lighthouse beam turned patiently over the water. By the time Nessa reached the tide pools, the snow had nearly stopped. The harbour was quiet. The villagers were asleep. Smoke still rose from a few chimneys, and the bakery window glowed faintly from banked coals inside. At the foot of the lighthouse, Orlan was waiting. He stood in the red doorway with a shawl around his shoulders and a cup in his hands. When he saw Nessa, he smiled as if he had expected her at exactly that moment. "You found him then?" "I did," Nessa said. "And he gave you mittens." Nessa looked down at her hands. The cloud-soft mittens glowed faintly in the lighthouse light. "He said light calls to light." Orlan nodded. "It does." Nessa stepped inside. The cottage wrapped around her at once. Warmth, soup, firelight, the smell of bread, the creak of the familiar floorboards. Button went straight to his basket, turned around 3 times, and tucked himself into a grey circle. The blue lantern floated from Nessa's hand. For a moment, it hovered in the cottage, filling the walls with gentle winter light. Then it drifted toward the door, slipped through the smallest crack, and rose into the night. Nessa watched it go. Outside, it became a starry blue dot over the harbour. Then it faded into the falling snow. Orlan ladled soup into her bowl. "Eat," he said. "Adventures are best ended with supper." So Nessa sat by the fire. She ate barley soup with thick slices of bread. She told Orlan everything: the silver grove, the tea, the dreamlights, the keeper's scarf, Button's fish-shaped biscuit. Orlan listened without interrupting. When she was done, he poured more tea. "The snow lantern comes only when it is needed," he said. Not for danger, not for fear, usually for remembering. Remembering what? Orlan looked toward the lighthouse stairs. That even the keeper of a light may need to be guided sometimes. Nessa held her cup in both mittened hands. She felt tired now, not heavy tired, not sad tired, a soft, full tiredness, like a bed with clean sheets waiting in a warm room. After supper, she climbed the lighthouse stairs one last time. The lamp was burning well. Its beam moved slowly and steadily, across the harbour, across the snow, across the sea. Nessa stood beside it for a few quiet breaths. Far away, just beyond the cliffs, she thought she saw a blue lantern wink. Once, then it was gone. That night, Nessa slept in the little room beneath the lighthouse. Button slept at the foot of her bed. The cloud wool mittens lay on the chair beside her. Even in the dark, they held a pale silver glow. Outside, the snow stopped. The harbour settled into deep winter quiet. The boats rested. The gulls slept. The bell tower dreamed of morning. The lighthouse turned and turned. And somewhere beyond the cliffs, the keeper of snow lanterns walked his silent paths, lifting small lights for travellers, for dreams, and for anyone who needed a gentle way home. Nessa dreamed of the silver grove. She dreamed of tea that tasted of pears and stars. She dreamed that every window in Willow Harbour held a promise. Warm light here, soft rest here, you are safe here. And as the lighthouse beam crossed her sleeping face, Nessa smiled, for she knew now that light was not only something one tended, it was something one received, a glow in the snow, a cup of tea in a quiet grove, a lantern floating patiently ahead. The night deepened, the sea breathed slowly, and under the turning light, Willow Harbour slept, softly, safely, peacefully, until morning. And so our first story comes to its quiet end. You do not need to leave its warmth all at once. Let the last images rest softly in your mind. Let the gentle places, the kind faces, and the little moments of magic fade slowly, like candlelight behind a curtain. Take one easy breath in and breathe out. Now, when you are ready, we will drift into the next story. A new path is waiting. A new quiet world is opening, and all you need to do is listen, rest, and let the story carry you onward. Our next cozy bedtime story begins now. The next story is called The Badger Who Built a Rainy Day Tea Room. In a mild and rainy woodland, not far from a meadow of buttercups, there lived a badger named Bram. Bram was a carpenter. He had broad paws, silver-striped fur, and a quiet way of humming whenever he worked. His hum was so steady that birds often built nests nearby, as if his little tune helped them think. For many years, Bram had lived in a narrow burrow beneath a rowan tree. It had been a fine home when he was young. But over time, his shelves had become crowded with tools, half-carved spoons, rolls of twine, jars of nails, and stacks of smooth wooden boards he had saved because they might be useful someday. And Bram believed very strongly in someday. One spring morning, after bumping his head on the same low beam for the third time, he decided it was time to move. So he packed his tools into a handcart. He wrapped his teapot in a scarf. He tied his rocking chair to the top with rope, and he set off down the woodland path in search of a roomier home. He did not have to go far. Just beyond the buttercup meadow, Where the trees grew close and the ground rose into a soft green hill, Bram found an abandoned fox den. It had not been used for years. Ferns grew over the entrance, bluebells nodded nearby. A little stream ran behind it, making a pleasant sound over stones. The den was dry inside. It had 3 chambers. It smelled faintly of earth, roots, and rain. "Perfect," Bram said, and it was. All that day, he swept. He widened the door. He built shelves into the wall. He made a little round window from a piece of old glass he had found near the village lane. By evening, his new home looked as cozy as a home could look. There was a woven rug on the floor. There was a kettle on the stove. There was a lamp hanging from a hook in the ceiling. There was a narrow bed tucked beneath a curved earthen wall. Bram sat in his rocking chair, held a mug of nettle tea, and listened to the rain beginning outside. Tap, tap, tap went the rain on leaves. Drip, drip, drip went the water from fern tips. Hush, hush, hush went the stream behind the hill. Bram smiled. The new den was quiet, perhaps a little too quiet. He looked at the extra cups on his shelf. There were 6 of them, all handmade. Bram had carved them from applewood and polished them until they shone. "A cup is happier," he said to himself, "when someone is drinking from it." He decided that the next day he would meet his neighbors. Morning came grey and gentle. The rain had softened to mist. Tiny drops clung to every blade of grass. The whole woodland smelled fresh and green, as if the trees had taken a long drink and sighed with relief. Bram rose early. He made porridge with hazelnuts. He swept the floor. He rinsed his teapot. He put 3 small gifts into his satchel. The first was a little shelf shaped like a crescent moon. The second was a door latch carved to look like a leaf. The third was a candle stand made from a twist of cherry wood. "Good neighbor gifts," he said. Then he put on his brown waistcoat, took his walking stick, and stepped outside. The path through the buttercup meadow was soft beneath his paws. Bees moved sleepily from flower to flower. A robin sang from a fence post, though the day was damp. Bram walked slowly, enjoying the morning. He liked the way mist rested between the trees. He liked the quiet silver light. He liked the small sounds that only came after rain. Water slipping from leaf to leaf, snails moving through moss, roots drinking deep below the soil. After a little while, he came to a clearing he had not noticed before. In the middle of it stood a pile of reeds. Long reeds, short reeds, green reeds, golden reeds. Beside them were several pieces of string and a neat drawing scratched into the mud. The drawing showed a round little house. Bram tilted his head. "A reed house," he murmured. "Very airy, very pretty, but perhaps a bit wobbly if the rain comes sideways." He looked around for the owner. No one was there. From somewhere behind the bracken came a faint rustle. Bram saw the tip of a small brown ear disappear. "Shy neighbor," he said kindly. He did not call out. Some creatures needed time. Instead, he set down his satchel, rolled up his sleeves, and began to work. First, he gathered the strongest reeds and bent them into arches. He tied the arches together with soft willow cord. Then he wove thinner reeds across them, over and under, until the little house had walls like a basket. For the roof, he layered broad leaves over the reeds, each leaf tucked beneath the one above it, so rain would slide down and away. At the entrance, he fixed the crescent shelf inside the doorway. "For a candle," he said. Then he stepped back. The reed house was small, round, and golden. It looked as if a basket had decided to become a cottage. From the bracken came another rustle. Bram smiled, but did not stare. He took a piece of chalk from his pocket and wrote on a flat stone, "Welcome, neighbour. May your roof keep you dry." Then he continued down the path. Behind him, a young field mouse named Tilly crept from the bracken. She had been trying for 2 days to build her house, but the reeds kept sliding apart. Now she stood before the neat little cottage with both paws pressed to her cheeks. Inside, the crescent shelf was just the right size for her acorn lamp. She smiled so widely that her whiskers trembled. Bram followed the stream deeper into the woods. The rain began again, but only lightly. It whispered through the canopy and tapped on his shoulders. He did not mind. Badgers are comfortable in weather, especially when they have good waistcoats. Soon he came to a patch of hazel trees. Beneath them lay a pile of twigs, pine cones, bark strips, and dry leaves. A spool of thread sat on a stone. Next to it was another drawing. This drawing showed a tall house with a pointed roof. Bram examined the materials. He said, "A twig tower, ambitious." A soft sneeze came from behind a mushroom. Bram pretended not to hear. The mushroom sneezed again. "Bless you," Bram said politely, still looking at the twigs. A tiny hedgehog peered out. She wore a blue shawl and looked deeply embarrassed. "I was going to build it," she said. "Only the roof keeps falling into the sitting room." "A common difficulty," Bram said. "Roofs do enjoy falling if not properly persuaded." The hedgehog blinked. "My name is Pippa." "Bram," said the badger, bowing. Pippa came out from behind the mushroom. She was carrying a notebook full of house ideas. Bram could see drawings of towers, porches, round windows, and one very complicated balcony. "I like tall houses," Pippa said shyly. "I want to see the sunrise from my bed." "A fine wish," Bram said. "Let us make the house tall then, but also steady." Together, they sorted the twigs. Bram showed Pippa how to place the thickest ones at the corners. He taught her how to cross-brace the walls so they would not lean. Pippa was very good at weaving dry grass between the twigs, because hedgehogs have patient paws when they are not in a hurry. The rain fell softly while they worked. A blackbird watched from above. A snail crossed the path very slowly. The hazel leaves trembled whenever drops landed on them. By midday, the twig tower stood proudly between two roots. It had a pointed bark roof, a round window, and a little ladder inside leading to a sleeping loft. Bram fixed the leaf-shaped latch to the door. Pippa climbed up to the loft, looked out of the round window and gasped. "I can see the meadow," she said, "and the stream, and your ears." Bram laughed. "Then the view is complete." Pippa came down and offered him a currant bun wrapped in a leaf. "My aunt made these," she said. "They are a little squashed." "Squashed buns are often the sweetest," Bram said. They sat under the hazel tree and ate one bun each while the rain made a soft curtain around them. When Bram rose to go, Pippa touched the new latch. "Will you come for tea when I have unpacked?" "With pleasure," Bram said. Then he continued along the stream, feeling that the woodland was already less quiet than it had been that morning. The path narrowed after the hazel trees. It wound between mossy stones and under low branches. Bram ducked often. Once, a branch brushed his nose and left a drop of water there. At last, he reached a place where the stream widened into a small pond. Water lilies floated on the surface. Dragonflies stitched blue lines through the air. On the far bank stood a stack of flat stones, a heap of clay, and several smooth pieces of driftwood. There was no drawing this time. Instead, there was a sign. "Future home of something excellent." Bram smiled. "That sounds promising. A voice came from the pond. It was going to be excellent yesterday. Bram looked down. A frog sat on a lily pad with his chin in his hands. "Good afternoon," Bram said. "Is it?" asked the frog. "It has rain, lilies, and the possibility of excellence," Bram replied. "So I believe it is." The frog considered this. "My name is Moswick," he said. "I planned a waterside cottage, but the stones sink, the clay slips, the roof floats away. I am beginning to think I am meant to live under a leaf forever." "Leaves are pleasant," Bram said, "but a cottage has advantages. Hooks, for example." "Hooks," Moswick said dreamily. "I have always wanted somewhere to hang my hat." Bram set down his satchel. Together they began. Moswick knew the pond well. He knew which stones were steady and which were only pretending. He gathered water-smoothed pebbles from the shallow edge. Bram mixed clay with dry grass to make it stronger. They built the cottage half on land and half over the pond. The back rested on stones. The front stood on short wooden posts. A little platform reached out over the water. For the roof, Bram used curved pieces of bark, weighted with pebbles so they would not float away. Moswick hopped in and out, testing everything. "Good floor," he said. "Fine wall. Excellent doorway. Very respectable corner." When the cottage was finished, Bram placed the cherrywood candle stand inside. Moswick stared at it. "For me?" "For your hat," Bram said. "But it is a candle stand. It can be both, if the hat is small." Moswick removed a tiny green hat from behind a lily and hung it carefully on one curve of the candle stand. "Perfect," he whispered. Just then, the rain stopped. The pond became still. The clouds thinned. A pale beam of sunlight slipped through the trees and touched the water. Every drop on every leaf began to shine. Then something unexpected happened. From the reeds at the pond's edge came a warm, golden glow. Bram, Pippa, and Tilly might not have noticed it on any ordinary day, but Bram was standing close enough to see. The glow gathered into the shape of a door, a very small door. It appeared in the side of an old willow stump, just above the roots. It had a round brass knob and a tiny window shaped like a teardrop. Moswick hopped backward in surprise. "I have lived here all my life," he said, "and that has not always been there." The little door opened. A moth stepped out. She was pale cream with soft brown markings on her wings. Around her neck she wore a scarf made of spider silk. "Good afternoon," she said. Bram bowed. "Good afternoon." "I am Luma," said the moth. "Keeper of the rainy day tea room." Moswick blinked. "The what?" "The rainy day tea room," she said. "It appears only when enough kindness has been built into one woodland before sunset." Bram looked down at his paws. Luma smiled at him. "Today, I believe, there has been plenty." The little door widened, not in size exactly, but in invitation. Bram could not explain it. One moment it was far too small for a badger. The next, it seemed just right. Warm light spilled from inside. There was the smell of tea, and toast, and honey, and something buttery just out of the oven. Luma folded her wings. "Would you care to come in?" Bram thought of his quiet den, his 6 applewood cups, his hope of neighbors. "Yes," he said, "very much." Inside, the rainy day tea room was larger than it should have been. It had round tables made from polished walnut shells. It had chairs cushioned with moss. It had shelves full of teacups, each one different. Some were acorn caps, some were blue eggshells, some were carved from pear wood. Lanterns hung from the ceiling like warm yellow berries. At the far end, a stove glowed softly. A kettle steamed. A tray of seed cakes rested on a windowsill, cooling. Outside the little windows, rain began again, though Bram was certain it had stopped a moment before. "That is tea room rain," Luma explained. "Very calming. It falls when guests need resting." Bram sat at a table near the stove. Moswick came in, still wearing a look of wonder. Pippa arrived soon after, having followed the smell of toast. Tilly came last, shyly carrying her acorn lamp from her new reed cottage. When she saw Bram, she blushed beneath her whiskers. "I wanted to say thank you," she said. "You are very welcome," Bram replied. Luma brought tea in a round brown pot. "For today," she said, "we have chamomile, blackberry leaf, and a little wild honey." She poured a cup for each guest. Then came plates of warm bread with butter, tiny bowls of mushroom soup, seed cakes, berry jam, and a dish of roasted chestnuts. The 4 new neighbors ate slowly. Outside, tea room rain pattered on the windows. No one felt the need to rush. No one felt the need to say anything clever. After a while, Tilly spoke. "I thought I would be alone in my reed house." Pippa nodded. "I thought I would be alone in my tower." Moswick looked into his tea. "I thought I would be alone under my leaf." Bram wrapped his paws around his cup. "I thought I would be alone in my new den." Luma smiled. "And now?" Bram looked around the table, at the shy mouse with bright eyes, at the hedgehog with her blue shawl, at the frog with his tiny hat, at the moth keeper pouring more tea beneath lantern light. "Now," Bram said, "I think the woodland has rooms enough for everyone." The others nodded. Pippa suggested they meet every Thursday for tea. Moswick suggested every Tuesday as well, in case Thursday was too far away. Tilly whispered that she could bring blackberry tarts once she found her baking pan. Bram offered to build a long table for gatherings. Luma clapped her small hands. "The tea room will approve of that." They stayed until evening softened the windows. The rain outside became a lullaby. The lanterns glowed deeper. One by one, the guests leaned back in their chairs, warm and full and peaceful. Bram felt sleepiness settle over him. It began in his paws, then his shoulders, then behind his eyes. He was not quite asleep, but he was near it, floating in that pleasant place where the world feels soft around the edges. Luma brought him a final cup of tea. "For the walk home," she said. "Will I find the door again?" Bram asked. "When it is raining," said Luma, "and when kindness has been busy." Bram liked that answer very much. By the time Bram stepped outside, dusk had filled the woodland. The ordinary rain had returned, soft and cool. The pond reflected a sky the color of lavender smoke. Fireflies blinked between reeds. The little door in the willow stump closed behind him. For a moment, warm light shone through the teardrop window. Then the door faded into bark. Moswick hopped to his waterside cottage, where his tiny hat now had a proper place to hang. Pippa climbed into her twig tower and looked out at the meadow under evening mist. Tilly lit her acorn lamp on the crescent shelf in her golden reed house, and Bram walked home through the buttercup meadow. His paws were tired, his coat was damp, his heart was warm. When he reached his new den, it did not feel too quiet anymore. It felt ready. He went inside and lit the lamp. He placed his tools neatly on the shelf. He set 4 cups on the table instead of 1. Then he added 2 more just in case. The rain tapped on the round window. Bram made a small fire. He warmed the last of his tea. He sat in his rocking chair and listened. Tap, tap, tap went the rain. Drip, drip, drip went the fern tips. Hush, hush, hush went the stream. But now there were other sounds too. Far away, he heard Pippa opening and closing her new latch just for the pleasure of it. He heard Moswick singing a pond song to his hat. He heard Tilly sweeping her reed floor with a brush made of grass. The woodland was full of small homes with warm lights, small homes with dry roofs, small homes with neighbours inside. Bram rocked gently, forward and back, forward and back. His eyes grew heavy. Tomorrow he would build the long table. Next week, perhaps, he would carve more cups. And on the next rainy day, when kindness had been busy enough, the little tea room door might open again. But for now, there was nothing else to do. The fire glowed, the rain whispered, the den held him gently. Bram set down his empty cup. He pulled a knitted blanket over his knees, and as the woodland settled into night, the badger carpenter fell asleep smiling. Outside, the rain continued, soft, steady, kind, and all through the mossy woods, under leaf roofs and twig roofs and reed roofs and bark roofs, the new neighbours slept peacefully, each one tucked into a home made warmer by friendship. And now that gentle tale has come to rest. Let it settle behind you like a soft blanket. Let the music hold the silence for a moment. Let your thoughts become slower and lighter. You may already feel sleepy now, and if you do, there is no need to stay awake for every word. The stories will keep going softly. The night will keep holding you gently, and you can drift in and out, hearing only what you need. Soon we will begin our third and final story in this compilation. The final story is called The Moon Moth of Lullaby Isle. Another peaceful fairy tale, another quiet place, another soft journey towards sleep. So rest here for a moment, breathe in slowly, breathe out, and let the next story begin. Far out on a calm southern sea, beyond the roots of ships and the cries of busy harbours, there was a little island called Lullaby Isle. It was so small that from the highest hill one could see the entire shore. To the east were pale cliffs where swallows nested. To the west was a beach of fine white sand. To the south were warm tidal pools, clear as glass. To the north was a grove of wind-shaped olive trees. No humans lived there. No roads crossed it. No bells rang. No carts rattled. No doors opened or closed. The island belonged to gentler rhythms. The tide came in. The tide went out. The sun rose. The moon followed. The grasses bent. The birds slept. And among all these quiet rhythms lived a spirit named Lumi. Lumi was a moon moth spirit. By day they were almost invisible. a pale shimmer resting on leaves or drifting through sunbeams. By night, they glowed softly, with wings like folded moonlight, and a body no larger than a fig. Lume had lived on Lullaby Isle for as long as the island had known the moon. They knew every hollow in every tree. They knew every shell path hidden under sand. They knew where the warmest stones waited after sunset. They knew which flowers opened only when the stars appeared. Lume had one special task. Each evening they gathered the island's scattered calm and wove it into a song. Then they carried the song from shore to shore, helping every creature settle into sleep. But evening was still far away. Now it was dawn. A soft pearl light touched the sea. The horizon blushed pink. Small waves folded themselves gently onto the western beach. Lume woke inside a bellflower. The flower hung from a low vine near the olive grove. Its petals were lavender blue, and its cup was just wide enough for a moon moth spirit to sleep curled inside. When the first sunlight entered the flower, Lume opened their silver eyes. For a moment they did not move. They listened. The island was waking. A lizard shifted on a warm stone. A swallow chirped from the cliff. A bee tested its wings inside a blossom. The sea whispered hush, hush, hush along the sand. Lume stretched all four wings. A little dusting of moon-pale light drifted from them and settled on the flower's petals. "Good morning," Lume whispered. The bellflower nodded in the faint breeze. Then Lume rose into the air. They flew slowly at first, still dreamy from sleep. Their wings made no sound. They simply lifted, dipped, and carried them into the dawn. Above the olive grove, the air smelled of leaves, salt, and sun-warmed bark. The trees were old and twisted, with silver undersides to their leaves. When the wind moved through them, they flashed like tiny fish. Lume loved this hour. Everything was beginning, but nothing was rushing. The whole island seemed to breathe in. Every morning, Lume made a round of the island, not because anyone demanded it, not because there was danger, but because small greetings mattered. First, they visited the cliff swallows. The swallows lived in little mud nests tucked into the pale eastern rock. At dawn, they were already busy, darting in and out with cheerful calls. Lume hovered near the cliff face. "Good morning," they sang in a voice too soft for humans to hear. The swallows answered with bright chirps. One young swallow, still sleepy, had a feather sticking straight up on his head. Lume drifted close and smoothed it down with one delicate wing. The swallow blinked, then tucked himself beneath his mother's warm side. Next, Lume flew to the herb slope. Wild thyme grew there. So did rosemary, fennel, and tiny yellow flowers that smelled faintly of honey. Dew clung to everything. Lumi touched each dewdrop gently. Where their wing brushed water, the drops shone for a moment with pale light. This helped the bees find them. Bees like to drink dew in the morning before beginning their work. Soon the first bee arrived. She landed heavily on a thyme stem and drank. "Thank you," hummed the bee. "You are welcome," whispered Lumi. Then Lumi went to the warm stones. The stones lay in a circle near the southern shore. They were smooth and flat, and they held heat better than anything else on the island. The old tortoise, Maro, slept there most mornings. Maro was older than many trees and slower than clouds. His shell was patterned with soft brown and gold. When he opened his eyes, he always seemed to be waking from a very wise dream. Today, he was not yet awake. Lumi settled on the edge of his shell. "Maro," they said gently, "the sun has arrived." The tortoise opened one eye. "Already?" "Yes." "Did it come quietly?" "Very." "Good," said Maro. He stretched one wrinkled leg, then another. Lumi waited patiently. It took Maro a long time to become fully arranged for the day. When he was ready, Lumi guided a little sunbeam onto the flattest part of his shell. Maro sighed happily. "There," he said. "That is thoughtful." After Maro, Lumi visited the tidal pools. At low tide, the southern rocks held pools of clear, warm water. Tiny fish flashed inside them. Pink shells rested in the sand. Sea anemones opened like soft flowers. Lumi hovered over the largest pool and looked down. The water reflected their pale wings. Below, a small silver fish swam in circles. "You are making a whirlpool," Lumi said. "I am practicing being a moon," said the fish. Lumi considered this. "You are very shiny." The fish seemed pleased and swam an even rounder circle. Lumi moved from pool to pool, greeting crabs, shells, shrimp, and little plants that waved beneath the water. In one pool, they found a starfish turned upside down. "Again?" Lumi asked kindly. The starfish said nothing, as starfish often do. Lumi called to a passing crab. Together, with much careful pushing, they helped the starfish roll over. The starfish settled comfortably on the sand. A tiny bubble rose from beneath one arm. Lumi chose to interpret this as thanks. By the time the morning round was complete, the island was fully awake. The sun was warm. The swallows were flying. The bees were humming. The tide was breathing in again. Lumi drifted toward the center of the island, where the silver grass grew. The silver grass covered the island's middle hill. Each blade was pale green on one side and shining white on the other. When the wind moved across it, the hill rippled like water under moonlight, even at noon. Lumi liked to rest there after morning greetings. They settled on a blade of grass and let it sway beneath them. Back and forth, back and forth. The motion was soothing. For a while, Lumi watched clouds pass overhead. There were 3 clouds today, one shaped like a sleeping seal, one shaped like a bowl of cream, one shaped like nothing in particular, which was often the most restful kind. As the day warmed, Lumi felt their wings grow drowsy. Moon moth spirits do not sleep exactly as people do. They drift. They let part of themselves become breeze, part become light, and part remain just awake enough to hear the island. So Lumi drifted. They listened to the low hum of bees, of grass, the far hush of waves, the tiny scratch of Maro's feet on stone. All was well. But after a while, a new sound reached them. Tap, 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 tap. Lumi opened their eyes. The sound came from the northern olive grove. It was not loud. It was not alarming. It was simply unfamiliar. Lumi rose and flew toward it. The grove was cool and dappled. Sunlight slipped through the leaves and made little moving coins on the ground. The air smelled of olives, dust and warm wood. Tap. There it was again. Near the oldest tree, Lumi found a small object caught between two roots. It was a little wooden box. The box was no bigger than a pomegranate. It was made of dark polished wood, with a clasp shaped like a shell. It looked very old and very tired, as if it had travelled a long way. Tap. The sound came from inside. Lumi landed on the root beside it. "Hello?" they whispered. Tap, tap. Lumi touched the clasp with one wing. The box opened. Inside was a single glow, not a flame, not a firefly, not a star. It was a memory. Lumi knew memories. The island held many of them. Old rain, old sunlight, old nests, old songs. But this memory was from somewhere else. It smelled faintly of cedar chests, wool blankets and ink. Inside the glow, Lumi saw a room. A quiet room with blue curtains, a child asleep in a bed, an old woman sitting nearby, humming softly while knitting. Rain touched the window. A small lamp burned on a table. The humming was gentle. Lumi leaned closer. The memory's song was beautiful, but it was fraying at the edges. It had travelled far across the sea and became tangled in wind. "No wonder you were tapping," Lumi said. "You were trying to find where you belong." The memory pulsed softly. Lumi did not know the room. They did not know the child, the old woman, or the rainy window. But they knew what kind of song it was. A bedtime song. A song that wanted to comfort someone. Lumi closed the box. They would help it, but not yet. A travelling memory needed rest before moving on, just like a bird, just like a cloud, just like anyone. Lumi carried the box carefully to the bellflower where they had slept that morning. They placed it inside the cool lavender cup. "Rest here," they whispered. "Tonight, when the lullaby rises, we will ask the moon where to send you." The box was still. Lumi felt satisfied. Then, because helping a memory was delicate work, they went to find nectar. Near the western beach grew a patch of night-blooming lilies. During the day, the lilies remained closed, their white petals folded like sleeping hands. But Lumi knew that deep inside each flower, a little sweetness waited. they asked politely before sipping. The lilies, who were fond of Lumi, allowed it. The nectar tasted cool and silver, like moonlight mixed with pear. Refreshed, Lumi flew down to the beach. The sand was warm, the tide was halfway in, small waves rolled up and spread thin sheets of water that reflected the sky. On the beach, Lumi found the sandpipers having a meeting. Sandpiper meetings were mostly walking, stopping, peeping and walking again. Lumi landed on a shell and listened respectfully. The matter concerned a blue ribbon of seaweed that had washed ashore and looked, depending on who stood where, either like a river, a snake, or a very long scarf. Lumi suggested it might simply be seaweed. The sandpipers found this answer acceptable and resumed pecking at the sand. A little farther along, Lumi discovered a piece of sea glass. It was smooth, round and pale green. Lumi loved sea glass. It was one of the sea's quiet tricks, turning sharp things soft with time. They picked it up and carried it to a hidden hollow beneath a leaning olive tree. This was Lumi's collection place. Inside the hollow were small treasures gathered over many seasons. A spiral shell, a feather with a blue tip, a pebble shaped like a heart, a dried seed pod that rattled pleasantly, 3 pieces of sea glass, and now a 4th. Lumi placed the green glass beside the others. The hollow glowed faintly. Every object in it held a little calm. This was where Lumi came whenever they needed to remember that nothing beautiful had to be large. After visiting the treasure hollow, Lumi returned to the bellflower. The wooden box was resting where they had left it, but now beside it stood someone, a small figure made of mist and water. She was no taller than Lumi, with hair like falling rain and a dress that shifted between blue and clear. She was a tide pool spirit, one of the quiet ones who rarely left the shore. Her name was Nirin. I heard the memory tapping, Nirin said. Do you know where it belongs? Lumi asked. Nirin shook her transparent head. But the sea carried it close. The sea may remember its direction. Will you help me ask? Nirin smiled. Together they waited for evening. All afternoon the island softened. The light turned honey gold. The shadows grew long. The bees returned to their hidden places. The swallows flew lower. Maro the tortoise settled beneath a warm stone ledge, already half asleep. At last the first star appeared. The bellflower opened wider. The wooden box gave one quiet tap. It was time. Lumi and Nirin carried the box to the southern tidal pools. The largest pool was perfectly still. The sky above it was deep blue now, and the first stars trembled in its surface. Nirin touched the water. Ripples moved outward. The sea remembers many roads, she whispered, but it speaks slowly. Lumi opened the box. The memory rose. The little room appeared again in the glow. Blue curtains, sleeping child, knitting hands, rain on glass, the old humming song. Lumi began to hum with it. Nirin added the sound of soft water. The pool brightened. In its reflection, the stars shifted. They formed a path across the water, pointing west. The memory pulsed with relief. That way, Lumi said. But not alone, Nirin added. It is very tired. Lumi knew what to do. They would weave the memory into the island's lullaby for one night. The song would carry it safely across the sea, soft and strong and warm. Before the lullaby could begin, Lumi made the evening round. This was different from the morning round. Morning was for greetings, evening was for settling. Lumi visited the swallows first. The nests were full of sleepy feathers. The young swallow with the once untidy feather was already dreaming. Lumi brushed the cliff wall with one wing, and a soft glow spread over the nests, just enough to keep the night gentle. Then Lumi flew to the herb slope. The bees had gone inside their hidden hive beneath a thyme root. Lumi touched the entrance with a little moon dust. "Sleep well," they whispered. The hive hummed once, very low. At the warm stones, Maro opened one eye. "Evening already?" "Yes," said Lumi. "Did it arrive quietly?" "Very." "Good," said Maro, and went back to sleep. At the beach, the sandpipers stood on one leg with their heads tucked in. The ribbon of seaweed lay peacefully nearby, no longer causing discussion. At the tidal pools, fish floated in sheltered corners. The starfish was still the right way up. The crab who had helped earlier was tucked beneath a shell. Naren waited beside the largest pool, holding the memory glow in both hands. Lumi rose into the air. The moon lifted over the sea, full and round, creamy and calm, bright enough to paint the waves silver. Lumi's wings began to glow. This was the hour they loved most. They flew to the center hill, above the silver grass, and hovered there. The whole island lay around them, quiet and ready. Then Lumi began the lullaby. It had no words. It was made from the sounds of the island, the hush of waves, the sigh of grass, the wing beat of moths, the warm silence of stones, the tiny breath of flowers opening at night. Lumi gathered these sounds and wove them together. The song spread slowly, first through the grass, then through the olive grove, then down to the beach, then up along the cliffs. Every creature heard it. The swallows settled deeper, the bees grew still, the lizards tucked themselves beneath leaves. Maro dreamed of warm centuries, the fish floated quietly in moonlit pools. Naren lifted the memory into the song. For a moment, the island's lullaby changed. It took in the old woman's humming, it took in the sound of rain on the faraway window, it took in the feeling of a blanket being pulled gently under a child's chin. Lumi's heart grew soft. The memory was not from the island, but the island welcomed it. The song became fuller, warmer. It carried the memory upward into the moonlight. The glow rose over Lullaby Isle. It hovered once, as if giving thanks. Then it drifted west, following the path of stars reflected on the sea. Lumi watched until it became smaller than a firefly, then smaller than a pearl. Then it disappeared into the blue distance. Naren sighed. "It will arrive," she said. "Yes," Lumi whispered. "It knows the way now." The lullaby continued for a little while longer, not because it had to, because it felt good to finish slowly. Lumi drifted over the island, letting the last notes fall like petals. The night-blooming lilies opened fully, their white faces turned toward the moon. The olive leaves shimmered. The tidal pools held stars in their quiet bowls. Naren returned to the water, becoming a ripple, then a glimmer, then part of the pool. "Good night," Lumi whispered. The pool answered with one small silver bubble. Now the island was asleep, all except Lumi. They flew once more to their treasure hollow. The new piece of green sea glass shone in the moonlight. Lumi rested beside it for a moment, thinking of the travelling memory. Somewhere far away, perhaps, a person would sleep more peacefully tonight. Perhaps they would dream of blue curtains, knitting needles, rain, and a song they had almost forgotten. That was enough. Lumi left the hollow and returned to the bellflower. The flower waited open beneath the stars. Lumi settled inside. Its petals curved around them like a soft room. The air smelled of lavender, salt, and night. From the shore came the slow breathing of the tide. In, out, in, out. Lumi folded their wings. Their glow dimmed to a small pearl light. Tomorrow there would be another dawn, more dew to brighten, more sleepy feathers to smooth, more tiny island matters to tend. But now there was only rest. The moon watched over the sea watched over the island watched over every sleeping creature. And in the bellflower, the moon moth spirit closed their silver eyes. The last trace of the lullaby drifted through the grass. Hush of waves, sigh of leaves, soft moonlight, deep sleep. Lullaby Isle rested beneath the stars, peaceful, silver, still, until morning. And now our story has come to its quiet end. Lullaby Isle is resting beneath the moon. The tide pools are still. The olive trees are silver in the night. And the little moon moth spirit is curled safely inside the bellflower, with the whole island asleep around them. You do not need to follow the waves any farther now. You do not need to hold on to the story. Just let it become soft. Let the calming music carry you gently from here. Let the moonlight settle over your thoughts. Let your breathing slow with the quiet rhythm of the sea. Thank you for listening to Drift to Sleep. I'm Adele Nguyen, and I'll be back soon with more cozy sleep stories and bedtime stories. For now, let your eyes stay closed. Let your body feel warm and heavy. Let the night stay peaceful around you. Sleep well. Good night.